As 2019 was coming to an end, Dokkan went all out. December brought us one of the most controversial EZAs ever with LR Spirit Bomb Goku, a stacked new Year Dual Dokkanfest featuring Super Saiyan 2 Goku and Vegeta, and one of the strongest LRs of the year. Spirit Bomb absorbed Goku. So stay tuned as we cover all of that in today's Dokkan History episode. The month of December opened with one of the most controversial EZAs in Dokkan history, LR Super Vegito's EZA, and the reason why is pretty self-explanatory. The guy pretty much got nothing from his EZA, just an additional 5% attack on Super, 40% attack in defense after receiving an attack, and a Scalder you almost never saw since you had to be below 40% HP. But I think what a lot of players didn't understand at the time is that this guy was literally still runnable before his EZA. He was one of the only characters in the game who could tank normal attacks in SVR. So honestly, bumping his stats to modern standards was essentially all they could do to not make him completely broken. That 40% attack and defense went a long way with his post-EZA stats. He was literally better both offensively and defensively than his physical counterpart. Well, at least turn 1. Like, physical Super Vegito still outdamaged him in long events, but in my opinion, I think they could have given him a little bit more just because of how hype and anticipated his EZA was, but other than that, he was still very good. As for his EZA event, he was weak to units from the transformation boost category, so this wasn't anything too difficult since the category was pretty vast, but I remember one of his EZA missions being pretty difficult, like you had to beat any of the stages above level 20 in under 1 minute and 40 seconds, and most extreme tech characters at the time weren't units that did a lot of damage, especially early on, so this mission was quite a challenge. Vegito also came with the sub-EZAs of the androids. Int Android 18, now stacked attack on Super, had 80% attack and defense at the start of turn, 18% damage reduction, converted Rainbow Key Spheres to Int, something that was absolutely terrible everywhere except maybe the punching bag event, and had a 30% dodge chance and 70% attack and defense with an Android 17 on rotation. From what I remember, she was alright, just not the greatest card. Strength Android 17 was much better. He stacked defense on Super, and that alone made him very good, and every long event the game had to offer at the time. Then he had 70% attack and defense at the start of turn, 17% crit chance, had a much better orb changing ability than 18, turning AGL Key Spheres into Rainbow Key Spheres, and a 30% chance of launching an additional super attack, as well as 80% attack and defense with an Android 18 on rotation. That additional super attack went a long way with his defense stacking on Super. The guy was honestly a phenomenal EZA for the time. They also brought back the AGL type banner that same day and gave Dokkan Awakenings to AGL monotype supports. Pan raised allies attack by 25% for 2 turns on Super, and Metal Rildo greatly raised his attack and defense for 1 turn while also sealing the enemy's super attack. Those two were actually pretty good at the time. Pan was phenomenal on Super Saiyan 4 Goku's team, and Metal Rildo worked well on LR Baby's team. Like, the guy worked insanely well with LR Baby. They shared 3 links together, with 2 of them being key links, and with the additional 3 key and 50% attack and defense he gave to Baby, the guy could dish out some pretty impressive numbers next to him, especially in SVR. The next day, they announced that it wouldn't be possible anymore to create transfer codes. If you didn't know, back in the day you could only back up your account with transfer codes, and honestly, I kind of understand why they got rid of it, since not only was the number of codes that could possibly be created limited, well, the number was insanely big, but still limited, and it also wasn't the safest thing in the world. If it ever slipped during a stream or something, you were pretty much done for. But I honestly liked transfer codes, as it was honestly just way easier to save rerolled accounts that way. I literally still have the transfer codes of some old GP accounts I rerolled back during GP's 4th year anniversary. I also think this is worth mentioning, but Global got a global first 3 days later, strengths percent Blue Kayak and Goku, and this guy's release, unlike Take a Hit from the previous year, was much better. But Global still had to get shafted somehow. Like, I remember this guy's top grossing rewards taking weeks to come. Literally, we got his top grossing rewards after like 20 days. It took so long that we generally thought that they just stopped giving top grossing rewards on Global, that from now on we would only get top grossing rewards if we hit top grossing on both the Google and Apple Play stores, not only one of them. But coming back to JP, the update 4.8.0 was out the next day, and just like I said, it removed the ability to create new transfer codes, but added multiple new ways to link your account, which was definitely good. Then they improved the friend selection tab, letting you accept or refuse multiple friends at the same time, something that could definitely save you time. They also added a brightness option, an option I personally never used, as I think it just makes the screen way too dark to see anything, but I guess if you were playing Dokkan late at night in the dark, it could help. Another day later, we had the Christmas campaign, which came with your typical missions and login bonus rewards. But this time around, they give a special Christmas background, a background that was lightly animated from what I remember. Like you could see the sparkles sparkling in the background. Such a nostalgic background. Like the memories are just flowing through my mind.
Alright guys, we're back for another Dokkan battle video, and
you guys better be prepared for something very special today because the time has come.
Last night we got a huge data download for the global side of the game. There's a lot of new units that just came out.
Hey guys, today we're going to look at these incredible Dokkan Awakenings for the Tech Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and this physical Blue Goku, which, you know.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the red coin shop. And who do we have in here but LR, Gohan, and Goten? So there we go, global players.
The global first STR Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku.
Attacking defense 30% with each attack received up to 3. Did I say 300%? Dude, 300%'s a lot.
Global Celebration is one of the worst celebrations, part 1 so far. I must ask, if you think this are you drunk?
But yeah, the new campaign's missions also rewarded a new currency, Christmas bells, that you could exchange in the Baba shop for various rewards, like potential orbs, keys, candy canes. But what was interesting here were the special Christmas Kais. If you missed out on Santa Roshi or Kid Trunks and Mai, this was your chance to get them. Oh, and we also had a new Santa Goku Kai, a pretty cool card I guess. I honestly don't really remember if they ever brought him back, but I still have a copy. I wish we could lock them, like I just don't want to lose those special Kais in case they just never bring them back. A new Christmas campaign also meant a new double rates LR. He came the next day and the guy was good. He was a leader for a Super Saiyans category, a category that, as you already know, was absolutely phenomenal and in a pretty great spot at the time. Greatly raised his defense for one turn on his 12 key and not only sealed but also lowered the enemy's attack on his 18 key super attack, making him very good for SBR. Then he had 59% attack and defense at the start of turn, was a Rainbow Orb Changer who also got an additional 2 key per Rainbow Key spheres obtained, so it was extremely easy to hit his 18 key super attack, like he was at 24 key most of the time. Then he gained 7% attack and defense per key spheres obtained, and an additional 7% attack per key spheres obtained per Super Saiyan category on rotation, excluding himself. So in a full Super Saiyan rotation, he got 21% attack and 7% defense per key spheres obtained. So as you can guess, he could dish out some very impressive numbers on a full Super Saiyan team, and fairly easily. Like this guy was honestly just insane for the time. Even though he didn't really dominate long events, he could still hold his own there, and was an SBR beast. All around, he was definitely a top 5 unit in the game. As for his banner, it was just like the previous year, a double rates banner with a featured LR, meaning you had around a 20% chance of pulling an LR every multi, and the featured units weren't the worst. The Hero Extermination Plan event cards were all going to EZA at some point in time, so even though the ones that already did were pretty bad, the future ones could look good. Tech Trunks and In Super Vegeta were still fairly new banner units who weren't bad at all, and you got 10 coins and a Santa Goku every multi, so essentially 2 Kais every multi if you traded your blue coins. But was the banner worth summoning on? With the new year, Dual Dokkanfest, and the 5th year anniversary on the way? Probably not, but it definitely wasn't the worst banner ever, especially considering how good LR Spirit Bomb absorbed Goku was. We also had the EZA of Tech Super Saiyan Vegeta that same day, a very good EZA actually. The guy stacked defense on Super, which alone made him insanely valuable for long events. Then he had 3 key and 70% attack and defense at the start of turn to hit his 12 key super attack to get those defensive stacks going. Then he got 30% attack up to 120% and 7% crit chance up to 35% at the start of turn if you were below 80% HP, which happened quite often in the Legendary Goku event. So you could essentially just build him full additionals and have him cook there. The guy was honestly a lifesaver for the Legendary Goku event. I remember using him so many times there. A Christmas celebration also meant some new special stones. The blue stone, the one you had to pay to get, featured all of the monotype gods and demigods leaders. Most of them already had EZAs by that point, and the others were going to probably very soon. But honestly, none of them were really worth your money. Those blue stones were pretty expensive. As for the red stone, the choice was simple. Rainbow in Janemba, literally just Rainbow in Janemba. Once that was done, pick whoever you're missing, then Rainbow Spirit Gogeta, then Super Saiyan Vegeta, and then all of the other Dokkanfest. Like the gap between those three and the other cards was pretty big at the time, with only Tech Cell maybe being close to them if you were lucky with with the orbs, and I guess Kid Buu still had value thanks to his massive support type buff. Like, he was still valuable for the Nuken events, for example, but that was about it. A week later, we had the EZA of Int Super Saiyan Trunks, who honestly wasn't the worst from what I remember. He now stacked attack on Super, had Shrieky and 70% attack and defense at the start of turn, and an additional 30% attack and defense per Super Saiyan ally on rotation, excluding himself. So on a full Super Saiyan rotation, he had 130% attack and defense at the start of turn, which wasn't bad at all. The biggest issue with that guy was really his 12 key multiplier. He had a 12 key multiplier of 120%, which was very low and held him back quite a lot offensively. But even then, he was still a valid filler unit on the new Super Saiyan Goku's team. The next day, they announced the legendary campaign for Prime Battle First Form Cell, and just like the other ones, you had to pre-farm him before the start of his campaign to get all of the rewards. We also had the 33rd World Tournament that same day with some new reward cards and awakenings. Mr. Buu's awakening was honestly pretty good. He raised his defense by 30% on Super for one turn, while also lowering the enemy's attack, so already a decent spread attack effect for SBR. Then he had 80% attack and defense at the start of turn, was a double Rainbow Orb Changer, changing in-type key spheres to Rainbow on top of random other type key spheres to Rainbow, and gained 20% attack and defense, while also healing 15,000 HP per Rainbow key spheres obtained. Like, this guy brought so much value to the team, it was just insane. Like, you have no idea how useful that double Rainbow Orb Changing ability was on his teams. And bro, his eventual EZA was even better, but his Dokkan Awakening was still very good at the time. Like, honestly, just an all-around pretty decent Dokkan Awakening. Cyborg Tao's Awakening, on the other hand, was not great. He raised his attack by 30% for one turn on Super, while also having a 30% chance of stunning the enemy, had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, with an additional 20% attack and defense per attack received, up to an additional 80% attack and defense, a buff that unfortunately wasn't calculated separately, and his attacks were guaranteed to hit. But it's not like it mattered, as the guy was tech and didn't lack defense on Super, so there was just no way you were bringing him into the Legendary Goku event. But yeah, honestly, the guy looked fine on paper, but in game he lacked teams, linking partners, and his stats were just not high enough for the hard events of the time. This World Tournament was also a special one, as it gave 2 new reward cards instead of just one. Both Kel and Caulifla stacked attack and defense on Super, so they were already very good for long events. Tech Kel gave Universe 6 category allies 20% attack and 10% defense, and Pure Saiyans category allies 20% attack and 10% defense. So 40% attack and 20% defense to units who were on both categories, which was very good. She then had 120% defense and launched an initial spread attack with a character whose name included Caulifla at the start of turn. So Kel and Caulifla, the best unit in the game, proc that part of her passive. Like, she was just insane for long events. Not as good as her summonable counterpart due to her lower stats, but still very good if you didn't have strength Kel. And Caulifla was also very good. She had 60% attack and defense at the start of turn, an additional 10% attack and defense per Universe 6 category ally on the team, a 50% dodge chance, and an additional super attack with an ally whose name included Kel on rotation. So she was good, but just like Kel, she wasn't better than her summonable counterpart. Still very good if you didn't have Tech Caulifla. Like, honestly, if the same name update had dropped before those two, they would have probably been some of the best World Tournament reward cards to ever release. But unfortunately, the same name update wasn't out yet, so you can't run characters of the same name on the same team. Almost a week later, and we had the new Year Dual Dokkanfest. A new Transforming Super Saiyan 2 Goku and a new Transforming Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta, who were both very good. Tech Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta introduced the Super Saiyan 2 category into the game, the only leader that category ever got to this day, and honestly, with power beyond Super Saiyan being a thing now, I guess it makes sense. The category was limited even at the time, not many characters in the series actually used the Super Saiyan 2 transformation, but it did feature LR AGL Gohan and LR Kel and Caulifla, two of the best units in the game, which coupled with the second category he led, Resurrected Warriors, made his team pretty alright. He then raised his defense for one turn on Super, had 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, up to an additional 60% attack. The more HP he had, the greater the boost, and up to an additional 60% defense, the less HP he had, the greater the boost, and an additional 30% attack and defense with 3 or more key spheres obtained. A buff that was actually calculated separately, so he could look pretty crazy with all of his buffs maxed out. Then he transformed, starting from the 3rd turn from the start of battle, when facing facing only one enemy whose HP was 80% or more. I remember the one enemy restriction being pretty bad for SBR, since even on turn 3, you were facing multiple enemies most of the time, but other than that, the condition wasn't bad. And transformed, the guy was pretty cracked. He now greatly raised his defense for one turn on super, with a 50% chance of stunning the attacked enemy, which was a very strong spray attack effect for SBR. He had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, up to an additional 77% attack the more HP he had, the greater the boost, and up to an additional 77% defense, the less HP he had, the greater the boost. He was effective against all types with 3 or more key spheres obtained, and had guard with 6 or more key spheres obtained. Like, honestly, having his guard locked behind 6 key spheres was pretty bad. He honestly would have been a lot better if they had just swapped those 2 buffs. Like, if he had guard with 3 key spheres obtained, he would have been so much better. Another issue was the fact that he changed class upon transforming. He went from super to extreme, meaning you couldn't run him on a super class leader skill, as he would just lose the leader skill upon transforming. But since the meta was essentially just category leaders, it didn't matter as much, but it could definitely hurt you in like mono SBR stages or battlefield. Other than that, he was still a very good unit, and with 6 key spheres, he was arguably one of like the best defensive units in the game. In Super Saiyan 2 Angel Goku introduced the Other World Warriors category into the game, a category that was even worse than Vegeta's Super Saiyan 2 category. It practically had nothing at the time. He was also a leader for a Super Saiyan 3 category, a terrible leader for that category by the way, since he started in a Super Saiyan 2 form, meaning he didn't have over in a flash turn 1, the main Super Saiyan 3 key link. But yeah, he was the offensive counterpart of Vegeta. Instead of raising his defense on super, he raised his attack, and instead of gaining more attack, the more HP he had, he gained more defense the more HP he had, and more attack the less HP he had, with the same transforming condition as Vegeta. Then transformed, he had a 33% dodge chance and an additional 33% attack and defensive buff that was calculated separately with 3 or more key spheres obtained, and was effective against all types with 6 or more key spheres obtained. From what I remember, Goku felt much better to use than Vegeta transformed, since the gap between them was pretty significant at 3 key spheres obtained. Goku's 3 key spheres buffs were much better than Vegeta's, but as someone who was very hyped for his Dual Dokkanfest, I remember being very disappointed by Goku's transformation not being an active skill. I really wanted Super Saiyan 3 Goku's initial transformation to be voiced in Dokkan. That moment in Z still gives me goosebumps to this day. No idea what they were thinking there. Even AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku's intro doesn't do that moment justice in my opinion. We need a better version in Dokkan. Maybe in a future Dual Dokkanfest with like LR Kid Buu, I guess they could just redo it without him being like an angel. They could pull it off. As for their banner units, Strength Great Saiyaman was a sub-leader for a hybrid Saiyan category, so not so bad for Dokkan Battlefield. He stacked attack on super, had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, and a high chance of sealing the attacked enemy super attack for 2 turns. No idea what they were thinking with that high chance, should have been guaranteed, but yeah, he also gave Majin Buu Saga super class category allies 2 key and 30% attack and defense. From what I remember, he was okay, but nothing really that great. Physical Dabura was much better. He was a sub-leader for Majin Buu Saga category, stacked the defense on super, which alone made him like a beast for long events, had 120% attack and defense at the start of turn, and a 30% chance of stunning the attacked enemy for 2 turns, which in my opinion was much better than Gohan's coin flip ceiling. Even though the chance was lower, stunning was a much better debuff in SBR. He also gave Majin Buu Saga extreme class allies 2 key and 30% attack and defense, and with the extreme class side of the Majin Buu Saga being better at the time, he was very good. His link set was also somewhat decent, which was surprising and not what we expected from a Dabura card. And with the extreme class side of the Majin Buu Saga being a lot bigger at the time, he was very good. As for their banners, Super Saiyan 2 Goku's banner featured the new Great Saiyaman Gohan, who even though wasn't the best was still alright, LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who was still a phenomenal unit, leading one of the best categories in the game, AGL Transforming Goku, who was now better than ever thanks to the Legendary Goku event, Strength Super Saiyan 4 Goku, who was still decent on Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta's team, AGL Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken Goku, who was pretty good with his recent EZA, and Into UI Goku and Angel Tech Super Saiyan 3 Goku, who unfortunately weren't all that anymore. But yeah, still an all-around pretty decent banner. Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta's banner featured the new Dabura, who was very good for long events, Physical Transforming Vegeta, who was a beast in the Legendary Goku event, Strength Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, who even though wasn't as good as his Goku counterpart, was still decent, AGL Super Saiyan Blue Evolution Vegeta, who still had value just because of his insane leader skill, AGL Super Saiyan 4 for Vegeta was still decent on LR Spirit for Goku's team, in Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta wasn't all that anymore, and Strength Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta was still one of the best tanks in the game in any short event. So also an all-around decent banner. But honestly, those two weren't must summons. Sure, the new Super Saiyan 2s were very good, but they weren't insanely crazy or like insanely hype like the Dual Dokkanfest from the previous year. So you were probably better off saving your stones for the New Year Step Up banner, which we hoped was coming back at the end of the year. These guys also dropped with a new store event, which brought 2 new free play units. AGL Yamu and Spopovich were pretty interesting. They recovered 7% HP on Super, had 70% attack and defense at the start of turn, and gained an additional 20% defense per attack received, up to an additional 140% defense. Above that was calculated separately for a total boost of 308% defense fully built up, which was pretty insane. They also gained an additional 2 ki and 20% attack permanently per super attack performed, with no cap at all, and those attack buffs were calculated separately, so they were technically getting 34% attack instead of 20% every super attack performed, so they could get up to some pretty impressive numbers in the Legendary Goku event. But honestly, I remember them not being that good. Not only were their links horrible, but their base stats were pretty low, so even though the numbers in their kits looked good, in game they just weren't that great. Still a very fun unit though, especially in the Legendary Goku event. Like if we were able to like actually get them going and like stack, like I said, they could dish out some pretty impressive numbers. But it took time and it was very risky, as those guys were just they weren't it defensively. In Gohan was a turn 1 transforming unit who directly transformed into Great Saiyaman at the start of turn. As Great Saiyaman, he lowered attack and defense on Super, had 100% attack and defense at the start of turn, and an additional 5 ki, 58% attack and defense, and 10% crit and dodge chance when facing an extreme class enemy. And his super attack was sealed when facing a Pepe Girls or Youth Cat Grey enemy. I remember people saying he was a pretty good free play unit at the time, but I personally felt like he wasn't really that great, so I didn't even bother farming him, especially considering how bad his drop rate was. We also had the first Form Cell Legendary Campaign as announced a week earlier with your typical Legendary Campaign stuff. The game also hit top grossing that same day, so they gave every player 3 Dragon Stones and 2000 Int and Tech type potential orbs. Meanwhile on Global, we were still waiting forever for our Strength Person Blue Kaioken Goku's top grossing rewards. This was just insane, bro, like GP was getting top grossing rewards the day the banners dropped, and on Global we had to wait weeks, bro, weeks. It just made no sense. The year ended with the New Year campaign, introducing a new super type item, the Rat, since 2020 was the year of the rat and the zodiac sign or something. I think it's like some Chinese thing, I don't know. But anyways, the rat item was pretty good. It lowered the enemy's attack and defense for 2 turns, so pretty good in SPR. As you guessed it, the New Year Step Up Summon banner was back and better than ever. The first step still gave you a guaranteed EZA character, which was insanely valuable for only 20 Dragon Stones. Then the second step, for 30 Dragon Stones, gave you a Super or Extreme class 120% monotype leader with Vegito Blue and AGL Rose. Even though those units weren't all that anymore, they were still going to EZA at some point in the future, so it was still good to get them. And I'm pretty sure Vegito Blue EZA'd literally the following year, and was just insane. The third step gave you a super class category leader. It literally had all of them up until the release of MVP 17, so not bad at all. The fourth step gave you an extreme class category leader with a pool featuring every category leader released before that year's worldwide celebration, just like the super class step. And the last step gave you a guaranteed LR, with the most recent ones being the 4th year anniversary LRs. This banner was just so valuable at the time, because not only were you guaranteed good stuff, you could still pull any of those units at any point during your summons. You could leave that banner with so many new units. If it weren't for the step up banners, I would have never been able to rainbow some of these old Dokkan Fests that just weren't featured on new banners anymore. But yeah, this was a pretty crazy year for Dokkan, and honestly probably my favorite Dokkan year, just because of how much of a ride it was to be a global player at the time. All of those shared celebrations and crazy global first just made that year so fun. But from what I remember, the next year was somehow even crazier, and all that craziness began with the 5th year anniversary, objectively the hypest celebration in Dokkan history, featuring the Blue Fusions, who I'm pretty sure to this day have the highest grossing banners of all time. And that's what we'll cover in the next and probably, unfortunately, last Dokkan history episode, so stay tuned for that.